So clarity. There's a pretty profound problem related to the whole spiritual journey, which is after you embark upon it, obviously, if you're doing it right, at least you will start having certain realizations, and a degree of clarity will start to characterize your perspective on the world, or your perceptome, your reality tunnel, or your worldview. And this clarity, while it is, of course, a profound blessing, can turn out or prove to be quite a curse when it comes to certain of our social relations. The reason for this is that we're living in a world basically asphyxiating under the weight of its own denial, of its own propensity for illusion. Jung even points this out, and I have pointed this out before, in this really brilliant quote, which goes, "To those invested in illusion, insight is experienced as a betrayal." And so, gaining clarity, especially if you use it, which is to say, if you don't just keep it as some secret inside of you, but you actually expound on this clarity in your interaction with people, you will piss a lot of people off, because we are all so profoundly invested in the illusions and delusions that we use to scaffold our identity. Our weak little egos are gonna react when somebody starts speaking truth. So much, it's really quite both, I would say, fascinating, but also creepy, how invested in illusion we really are. And like, it's quite obvious, right? If you see, let's imagine two political opponents. They don't even need to be politicians nowadays. They can just be voters for certain politicians, but on each end of the political spectrum, these people almost cannot speak to each other. And why is that the case? It's the case because their worldviews don't really fit together. And if there's something we feel very, very strongly about, it's our worldview, right? When somebody comes and contradicts certain deeply held beliefs about reality, it takes quite a lot of patience and emotional stability for a lot of people to honor somebody given a different opinion than what they believe. And it's, of course, especially characteristics of the time that we're living in. People will get very angry. And why do they get angry? They get angry not because the other person is an idiot or whatever. They get angry because they feel that the assumptions and presuppositions scaffolding their identity and their worldview, which is something very, very fundamental within us, starts to stagger and become unstable when they're confronted with ideas or truths or perspectives that doesn't really support their particular worldview. And the secret truth here is that none of us have the right worldview. And we know this. That's why we're so vulnerable around it, right? If you just knew, if you just were 100% confident that your worldview was in actual accordance with reality, we wouldn't be so easily provoked around it, right? The reason we're so easily provoked is exactly because we know that our worldview, like, we don't know it consciously, but subconsciously we suspect, we fear that our worldview is really just built on clay feet, that it is an idea in our heads that is maybe not as much in accordance with reality as we would like it to be. And therefore, when somebody starts poking at that, we get extremely insecure. Not merely because somebody's poking at it, but because this worldview is structuring and scaffolding our very identity. And that means when somebody starts poking at that worldview, we will feel that our identity is being either devalued or problematized or destabilized. So this clarity is, in all probability, if you're a normal person with a normal spread of friends and acquaintances, it's going to piss off some people around you. And it will, I would say for most of us, it will lead to some certain relationships might even not survive it. And this is important to know. This is very important to know, because on the surface, clarity would seem like a blessing, and it is, but it will also act as a filter. It will filter certain people out of your life, people who cannot handle or who doesn't want to handle you just expounding clarity, like when they're not ready for it or whatever. And a lot of friendships, and this is another interesting and not very much spoken of dynamic, a lot of friendships are built on not a desire or an endeavor to get at reality and get in touch with truth. A lot of friendships are built on this kind of group psychological, groupthink idea that no, reality can be reality. We don't care. What we're doing here in this friendship is that we are essentially, what is that word? Confirming each other's worldviews. We're not challenging each other's worldviews. No. We're not being experimental about this. We're not trying to get in touch with reality. We're trying to basically cement ourselves in our present worldview, and we expect our friends and our relations to confirm our worldviews. And when they don't do that, we might get a little bitchy about it. And that's just something that is very important to be aware of. And another thing which is very important to be aware of is to not just become spiritually arrogant, right? And just be like, yeah, I meditated for 6 months and now I saw the light, and I will basically shove my new truth down your throat because now I've seen the light and I'm right about everything. Like, that is obviously another important trap not to fall into, right? So we have to understand that, yes, we will alienate certain people around us. And when we do that, we should do it with a lot of epistemic humility. We should be very conscious of our way of communicating, so we make it easier for these people around us who are just very deeply invested in their present worldview and who don't want it to change, to really be mindful about how we communicate with these people, because it's difficult. It can be very, very difficult if you spend the past 10, 20 years basically cementing yourself in a particular worldview, and some wise ass comes and start poking at it. Most people at the level of spiritual development that we're at in general as a species, most people will not take that in a very graceful way. And that is just very, very important to be aware of, right? Because they need help. Like, they need it. They need essentially special treatment. And so